Hello friends and welcome back to our channel. In this video we are going to make a Kraken clock. My name is Katora and let's jump into it. When I was helping my mom sort her garage, I came across this old mantel clock that has been missing its innards, and I thought it was dying to be turned into an art project. It has since been stripped of all of its fancy adornment and only the wood carcass remains, but it looks something similar to this back in the day. When I first stumbled upon this clock in the garage, I thought it'd be really cool if a creature or something was crawling out of the opening where the clock face was. With the clock face missing, I thrifted one similar in size. The story I made up about this project is that the clock was recovered from a very old shipwreck, and it was sitting in a tinkerer's lab for repair. One late night, the tinkerer was putzing at her desk. Lost in one of her projects, she mumbles, "I wonder what time it is," and all of a sudden this tentacle unfurls from the clock and reaches towards her, holding the clock face so she could see the time. When I was taking apart the new clock face, I realized the clock mechanism was broken, so I ended up picking up a replacement clock piece. This clock face is a little plain, so I'm going to add embellishments with Warbla black. I'll be kicking this all off by making a medallion for the center of the clock face, and then working around the trim and embellishing what is already there. With Warbla black being a thermoplastic, you need a heat gun to activate it, so just be careful if you're trying this at home. It can get pretty hot. Off camera, I have a little bowl of water just in case it gets a little too warm for my fingers. Now that I am satisfied with the clock face, let's prime it and give it its first coat of paint. Before I paint the numbers on, I'm going to antique the white a bit with a wash of yellow ochre. To make this look old, I'll be using some Grecian gold. A little dab of Rub and Buff will go a long ways. While I am adding some Grecian gold to make this look old, I would like to thank you for watching this video. And could you do us a favor and hit that like button? And if you like what you're seeing, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. For the numbers of the clock, I just went with a simple black paint. Now that everything has a chance to dry and set for a little bit, it's time to buff out the gold. When I was painting the numbers on the clock, I should have paid a little more attention to the placement instead of just eyeballing it, but it's not too egregious for me to go back and fix it. We're just gonna live with a slightly wonky clock. The final touch before we put the clock back together will be light weathering with burnt umber. For the armature of the tentacles, I used 16 gauge galvanized steel wire, and a much larger and heavier wire that I do not know the gauge of. And a bunch of EVA foam circles cut in a 2-inch diameter, descending down in size. Next, I cut off 3 strips of the 16 gauge wire, and then I started adding the EVA foam to it, and it ended up looking something like this. Now that I'm happy with the shape of the tentacle, I went back through and I added the thicker gauge wire through the center, and that will hold the clock piece. Now that I'm happy with the shape, it's time to bulk out the rest of this armature with some tinfoil and masking tape. For the main tentacle, I'm going to do the one that has the club on the end of it. I think this will provide a good base for the clock to sit on. To give our Kraken its proper skin-like texture, I'll be using EVA foam clay. I like EVA foam clay for this project because it has a nice organic texture when it dries. The technique I'm using to apply the EVA foam clay to the Kraken armature is the ye old smush around and find out technique. For the other two smaller tentacles, I just used tin foil for the armature and repeated the same process to apply the clay. The color palette I used for the Kraken was your traditional color scheme of red, purple, and cream colors. To kick off the painting process, I started with a base coat of yellow ochre and then went over it with a nice deep wine. After the first two coats have dried very thoroughly, it's now time to start the dry brushing parade. For the final layer of dry brushing, I went with this nice bright vermilion red. For the final touches on the project, I'm not going to do too much weathering on the clock. It has done a lot already by itself, and I'm just going to help it along with some masking tape. When I was at the craft store picking up the replacement piece for the clock, I found these neat little brass corner pieces, and I thought they'd be perfect for this project. I would like to thank you again for watching this video, and I hope this has inspired you to create something of your own. My name is Centaur, and I will see you next time. Now let's check out the final results.